Multiple senior law enforcement officials have told NBC News that a suspicious package has been found at the Clintons' home in Chappaqua, New York, which is just north of New York City. And I want to bring in Tom Winter. Tom, what can you tell us?
Well, right now, Stephanie, we're still trying to gather a lot of details as far as when this package was found, if it was more than one. The reporting from my colleague Jonathan Dienst is that a suspicious package was found earlier today, and that package, the concern is that package may resemble or be similar to the type of device that was found at George Soros' home just a few days ago, if you remember. So right now they're trying to look at that, ascertain whether or not this is the same type of package, if in fact it was a actual device, or if this is something that's more of a hoax. Now, obviously, the Clintons don't receive mail the way that perhaps you and I do, which is that there are mail screeners, and it isn't something where you can just walk up to their house and put a package in their mailbox or leave it on their doorstep. So, as far as the actual threat to the Clintons themselves, typically it would be limited in something that would be shipped over the mail or a package that would be delivered. With that said, we're really early on as far as trying to get some information on this and trying to get a sense of what we're actually looking at, if in fact it is the same type of device that was found at George Soros' home, and if in fact it was actually did contain explosive powder as that device did. So we're early on in the investigation, but it's something that we're going to continue to track.
All right, thanks, Tom. I want to bring in Pete Williams, who's got a statement now from the Secret Service. Pete, what do you know?
Right. We have a statement from the Secret Service and also have talked to several federal law enforcement officials. So it appears that two packages were sent to former presidents, both the residents of the Clintons in New York and of President Obama here in Washington, D.C. And now the Secret Service has confirmed this in a statement. It says, late on October 23rd, the Secret Service recovered a single package addressed to former First Lady Hillary Clinton in Westchester County, New York. And then early this morning, October 24th, a second package addressed to former President Obama was intercepted by Secret Service personnel in D.C. The packages were immediately identified during routine mail screening procedures as potential explosive devices and were appropriately handled as such. The protectees, meaning the Clintons and the Obamas, did not receive the packages, nor were they at risk of receiving them, and I'll explain why in a moment. And then it says the Secret Service has initiated a full-scope criminal investigation that will involve all the necessary federal, state, and local officials. So the reason that the protectees, as they say in the statement, didn't receive them is that for the White House, of course, for many government buildings here in Washington, but also for former presidents who receive Secret Service protection, the mail doesn't go directly to their houses. It goes to an off-site facility where it's screened for just this very purpose. So for many former federal officials that receive Secret Service protection, it's the same thing. You can't mail something to them directly.
All right, Pete,
and I'm just going to say one other thing. So it does appear, at least initially, that this is similar, and that at least that's the concern, similar to the device that was found at the George Soros house. And so that's one thing that they'll be looking at to figure out if this is the work of the same person.
Begin today's remarks by providing an update on the suspicious packages and devices mailed to current and former high-ranking government officials. The safety of the American people is my highest and absolute priority. I have just concluded a briefing with the FBI, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, and the U.S. Secret Service. As we speak, the packages are being inspected by top explosive experts, and a major federal investigation is now underway. The full weight of our government is being deployed to conduct this investigation and bring those responsible for these despicable acts to justice. We will spare no resources or expense in this effort. And I just want to tell you that in these times, we have to unify. We have to come together and send one very clear, strong, unmistakable message that acts or threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States of America. Thank you. It's a very bipartisan statement. I can tell you from both sides. We both agree on that. This egregious conduct is abhorrent to everything we hold dear and sacred as Americans. My administration will provide additional updates as they become available, and I just want to thank everybody for their understanding. We're extremely angry, upset, unhappy about what we witnessed this morning, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Because of those suspicious packages sent to the homes of the Obamas and the Clintons. Joining me on the phone, Stephen Rogers, former officer of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. Is this a terrorist incident, sir?
Well, what will happen now is the FBI, the law enforcement authorities are going to do a forensic analysis of both packages. They're going to try to find out to see if they came from the same person. They will be able to trace a lot of or collect a lot of information based on where they trace the material at. So it could be a terrorist attack, but it could be, as you know, we've got a lot of people that are unstable in this country. And if this is someone in our country that's doing this, this is really bad.
Well, we are told that the explosive device found at the home of George Soros is similar to the one found at the home of the Clintons. Does that imply some kind of a single person doing all of this?
It certainly does. A single person or perhaps a couple of people that are making these devices. So, and the more...
It doesn't sound like they're very sophisticated devices.
No, not at all. That's why I say it could be a single person. It could be 2 or 3 people trying to commit, regardless of what you say, it's a terrorist act. It's causing terror. Yeah. In the minds of these people. And unfortunately, my friend, there may be more packages sent to more people, and we just have to be very careful until they apprehend
What a rotten situation, a terrible development. But, sir, thanks very much for joining us this morning at a very appropriate moment. We do appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In several states tonight, an urgent search to find whoever's responsible for sending packages with a frightening-looking bomb inside.
The full weight of our government is being deployed to conduct this investigation and bring those responsible for these despicable acts to justice. Acts or threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States of America.
Just after 10 a.m., police took the extraordinary step of ordering an evacuation of CNN's headquarters in Midtown Manhattan.
We're going to jump in. There's a fire alarm here.
You might have heard it in the background. We're going to find out what the latest is
we'll
here
be right back.
at CNN. We're going to be right back.
It was a pipe bomb wrapped in black tape with some kind of device attached to it, sent to CNN but addressed to John Brennan, the former CIA director who has never worked there.
Responding officers identified a device that appeared to be a live explosive device. NYPD bomb squad responded, secured the device, and removed it for investigation.
In all now, 5 confirmed devices, possibly 6, said to be similar, some nearly identical, all sent to critics of President Trump, prominent Democrats, and Brennan, whose criticism led the president to cancel his security clearance. A nearly identical package was found last night, addressed to Hillary Clinton at the Clintons' home in Westchester County, New York. And this morning another addressed to former President Barack Obama at his house in Washington. But neither of those packages got anywhere near the Clintons or Obamas. Both were intercepted at Secret Service mail screening facilities far away from their houses. Another, said by investigators to be somewhat similar, was intercepted today at a federal facility in Maryland that screens mail addressed to members of Congress. It was addressed to Representative Maxine Waters, a California Democrat. Yet another was addressed to Eric Holder in Washington, who was Attorney General in the Obama administration. But it was never delivered, apparently because of a faulty address. Instead, it was sent back to the return address on the package, the Florida office of Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who investigators say had nothing to do with the mailings. Whoever sent them simply used her address. The first of the devices was found Monday in the New York State mailbox of George Soros, the billionaire who has donated heavily to the Democratic Party.
It's strictly speculative at this time as to whether they were intended to be able to explode or whether the intent was just to create fear, which it certainly has.
While all the packages had stamps, the ones sent to Soros and CNN appear to have been delivered, not mailed. The others all went through the mail and had postmarks, investigators say. Experts say those postmarks are an important clue.
And the Postal Inspection Service can track that package back to the United States Post Office that first received the package. Then you want to go grab all the cameras near there that you can and see if you can get a picture of the bomber.
Well, Pete, judging from the reaction today, first responders were certainly treating these as live bombs, but do they know how the devices are supposed to work to be triggered?
No, they don't have a good idea of that. All the devices have been sent to the FBI lab outside Washington, and officials tonight say the process of analyzing them and answering that question is just getting underway, so it's not clear whether they were actually fully functional. But, Lester, we're beginning to get indications now that the bombs were fortunately poorly made, and that may be why they didn't go off.
We are going to begin here with the investigation into a series of pipe bombs mailed to prominent Democrats and critics of the president. The mayor of New York called it an act of terror. Over the past 2 days, these crude bombs and other suspicious packages have been sent to them through the mail or by carrier. All of them were intercepted. No one has been hurt. So far, they've been addressed to former President Barack Obama at his home in Washington, Hillary Clinton at her home in Chappaqua, New York, former CIA Director John Brennan at the CNN bureau in the Time Warner building in New York. The Brennan package and at least some of the others had a phony return address indicating they came from the Florida office of former DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. In the end, a package intended for former Attorney General Eric Holder wound up at Wasserman Schultz's office after it was returned. The other targets, Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters of California and also billionaire George Soros. The president talked about the attacks at a campaign rally tonight in Wisconsin.
The federal government is conducting an aggressive investigation, and we will find those responsible and we will bring them to justice, hopefully very quickly. Any acts or threats of political violence are an attack on our democracy itself. No nation can succeed that tolerates violence or the threat of violence as a method of political intimidation, coercion, or control. There is one way to settle our disagreements. It's called peacefully at the ballot box. That's what we want.
Nikki Batiste has more on this now still developing story.
A little after 10 a.m., chaos gripped Midtown Manhattan as news of a suspicious package sent to CNN's mailroom spread through the newsroom.
Folks, clear the block!
Let's go, quickly!
Gotta go back this way, miss.
NYPD officers quickly evacuated CNN offices in the Time Warner Center.
And to have projectiles, I mean, that sounds like a fire alarm here. We'll keep you posted on that. But
moments before, their mailroom found this package. Inside, a bomb and unidentified white powder. It was addressed to former CIA Director John Brennan. CNN anchors had to move their broadcast to the sidewalk.
All of our CNN colleagues that we know of are outside right now. Everyone is safe, as we can see.
The device was taken away in this NYPD containment vehicle, designed to absorb the blast of a bomb if it detonates. Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism, John Miller.
The bomb squad was able to safely remove a device contained in that package. Is also some kind of powder.
An hour before CNN's bomb scare, news broke of Hillary and Bill Clinton's Secret Service detail intercepting a pipe bomb before it reached their Westchester residence. Hillary was on the road in Florida campaigning, but former President Bill Clinton was home at the time. Right after 9 a.m. this morning when this news broke, this normally quiet neighborhood was inundated with law enforcement officers and media. Secret Service agents found a similar device addressed to former President Barack Obama in Washington, D.C. In Sunrise, Florida, bomb squad members had to use a robot to investigate a suspicious package that was sent to the incorrect address of former Attorney General Eric Holder. The package was then rerouted to Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office, who was listed as the sender of all of today's suspicious devices. Officials say a package was also sent to Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters on Capitol Hill.
We have to do everything we can to bring our country together.
The intended recipients of the packages are some of President Trump's most high-profile verbal targets. The First Lady and the President condemned the political violence.
The full weight of our government is being deployed to conduct this investigation and bring those responsible for these despicable acts to justice.
Authorities say all of the devices discovered today were similar to the one which arrived at the home of liberal donor George Soros' house on Monday. Officials say the white powder in the envelope mailed here to CNN's offices is being tested, and that all the devices were simply made but functional and could have been lethal. Jeff?
All right, Nikki, thanks very much.
We're going to take you live to Mosinee, Wisconsin. President Trump is taking the stage at a Make America Great rally. Let's listen in.
By addressing the suspicious devices and packages that were mailed to current and former high-ranking government officials. My highest duty, as you know, as president, is to keep America safe. That's what we talk about. That's what we do. The federal government is conducting an aggressive investigation, and we will find those responsible, and we will bring them to justice, hopefully very quickly. Any acts or threats of political violence are an attack on our democracy itself. No nation can succeed that tolerates violence or the threat of violence as a method of political intimidation, coercion, or control. We all know that. Such conduct must be fiercely opposed and firmly prosecuted. We want all sides to come together in peace and harmony. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. It'll happen. More broadly, there's much we can do to bring our nation together. For example, those engaged in the political arena must stop treating political opponents as being morally defective. Have to do that. The language of moral condemnation and destructive routine, these are arguments and disagreements that have to stop. No one should carelessly compare political opponents to historical villains, which is done often, it's done all the time. Got to stop. We should not mob people in public spaces or destroy public property. There is one way to settle our disagreements. It's called peacefully at the ballot box. That's what we want. That's what we want. As part of a larger national effort to bridge our divides and bring people together, the media also has a responsibility to set a civil tone and to stop the endless hostility and constant negative and oftentimes false attacks and stories. Have to do it. Have to do it. They've got to stop. Bring people together. We're just 13 days away from a very, very important election. It's an election of monumental, just if you look at it, monumental importance, isn't it? Wouldn't you say monumental importance? There are dramatic differences between our two political parties, that we know. It is essential for democracy to draw a sharp contrast between the two different platforms put before the American people. And we have a chance to do that right now in many states and on November 6th. We need more, not less, debate about policy issues in our country. But what we cannot do is let our disagreements about matters of policy tear us apart as a country. Can't do that. We must accept the verdicts of elections and remember that America's greatest achievements have always been those endeavors we embarked on together. We have had great, great achievements. So true. So let's put it all together, right? Let's put it all together. Let's get along. Great country. We're going to get along.
More on the package reported by police in Westchester County, New York, of a package found near Bill and Hillary Clinton's home in suburban New York. The FBI has now put out a statement via Twitter, the New York FBI, saying, quote, "We are aware of a suspicious package found in the vicinity of the Clinton residence in Chappaqua, New York, and our JTTF has engaged with our federal, state, and local partners to investigate. As this is an ongoing investigation, we will have no further comment at this time." They are reporting that the Secret Service and FBI intercepted 2 packages, one for Hillary Clinton and one for former President Barack Obama. Mike Emanuel has more on this breaking news for us from Washington this morning. Mike, what more are we learning?
Well, Sandra, it strikes me as this is the reason why in a post-9/11 world, why they do mail screening at off-site locations, because people have been sending suspicious letters, suspicious packages, and in this case, there are 2 packages identified as potentially explosive devices that were sent to a former First Lady, a former Democratic nominee, and Hillary Clinton, and also to former President Barack Obama. That package discovered today. Kudos to the Secret Service for doing a stellar job of identifying suspicious packages and making sure they did not get to the protectees. But bottom line, this is alarming to a lot of officials here in Washington. There will be great resources dedicated to figuring out who's behind sending these suspicious packages to a former president, former First Lady. And bottom line, there's an investigation underway trying to get to the bottom of it.
The former Boston Police Commissioner, Ed Davis, kind enough to join us now. And I'm sure, Commissioner Davis, you were able to hear Commissioner O'Neill and other officials in New York as they went through the developments as they know it. I did think it was interesting. John Miller was one of the gentlemen speaking there. John Miller is the Deputy Commissioner here for Intelligence and Counterterrorism in New York. He's actually a longtime television reporter. He's gone in and out of that business in law enforcement. But he seemed to lay out a timeline of all this, that George Soros, the philanthropist and investor and what have you, he had received this package at his home in suburban New York, I believe, over the weekend. And then it seems like they were able to piece together things that the other packages, and to use his words, were nearly identical. He talked about the package being sent to the Obamas. So, you know, obviously it does seem like we have a pattern developing here. What do you make of it all?
Well, there is a pattern developing, and clearly it has a political connection. So motivation is a big part of what the investigators will look at. John Miller is a friend of mine, as is Jimmy O'Neill. You couldn't get 2 better cops in the United States directed at this. So I'm fairly confident they'll be able to run this person down. They're going to look at, beyond motivation, they're going to be looking at the construction of the device. They're going to look for DNA. They're going to look for fingerprints. They're going to look for, you know, peculiarities of that device and compare it to databases held by police and military. IED defeat team will be involved in this from the Defense Department. There's going to be all sorts of eyes on this, and then they're going to track the package back through the mail system to find out or get as close as they can to where it came from. So there's been a good record of closing these cases. I think the Unabomber is an example where it went on for a long time before they caught him, but they did catch him. So I think there's a very good chance that we'll find out who's responsible for this.
On the political element, the political officials that have been named up until a few moments ago, and, well, you know, even including a few moments ago, all the political officials have been Democrats. So I said earlier, you don't want to kind of rush to judgment or make assumptions, but obviously that aids in the investigation.
Yes, there's no question. Not only does it aid in the investigation, but it also gives pause to high-profile Democrats in other parts of the country. I think that the security apparatus around the nation is identifying individuals who may be targeted here and making sure that they're very, very careful about handling mail and about packages that they deal with. This could continue into the evening as mail deliveries are made, but now that people are aware of it, the chance of a successful detonation is lower, and I think that's a testament to the security services that are out there right now.
Yeah, and that's the other, I guess, headline to come out of that news conference. There were a number of them, but the other one was that, you know, there's a likelihood, I believe is how it was phrased, or something along those lines, that there are other packages out there. I mean, that's a reasonable assumption, don't you think, Commissioner?
I think it is, and I think we have to be cautious of that. Yeah. The other interesting thing that came out of the press conference was the the presence of white powder.
Yes.
There are different protocols for dealing with those things, different response, different protocols. So that does, this dual threat does make it more difficult to respond to.
By the way, I don't think we know yet, but I don't think we know if there was white powder on any of the other packages. I mean, there very well may be, but I don't think we don't know that, right? Just the CNN package.
Right. John Miller said that the one at CNN had white powder on it. But there have been other people that have said these are very similar packages. So, you know, it's clearly something you have to worry about.
All right. Anything that you're thinking about today in terms of questions we don't have answered yet? By the way, this picture, and we're showing a close-up, when Christina was reporting, we showed it again, is, and Ralph, correct me if I'm wrong in my ear, of the package that was sent to CNN. Was this released by the New York City Police Department? This is the package that was sent to CNN. It was described by John Miller and some of those other officials as what appeared to be a pipe bomb. I don't know, Ed, if you can see this. You probably can. I don't know if you have a return feed where you are. Okay, but it appears, again, what John said, it appears to be a pipe bomb. Do we read anything into that in terms of how professional the person may have been, or the opposite, how amateurish this person may have been, or persons?
Well, the interesting part of this is if there's an explosive in these, and it appears as though there was in the first one, the fact that this guy didn't blow himself up in the construction of them is an indication of some sophistication. That looks like a very well-made device from the looks of it from the outside. You've got caps on both ends of some sort. You've got a wire coming into what may be a detonator, a cell phone, or something in front. If I saw that, I would move way back and call the bomb squad.
Okay. Ed Davis, thank you. Former Boston Police Commissioner.